Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for people to join before I get started. So if you can bear with me a couple of minutes and we'll get started. After this live stream, I'm probably going to do one more live stream. I want to talk about the Breonna Taylor case and some controversy going on between Tamika Mallory and this hip hop producer, this white producer. So that's going to be my next video. And I may actually do one more video just talking about something else. I'm not going to mention the subject. I may do it either tonight or tomorrow morning. So you all look out for that. So I'm going to probably do like at least 3 videos between today and tomorrow. So I hope that y'all can rock with me. Shout out to everyone tuning in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I see that there are a couple of people who have joined who are tuning in. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to pull up some images before I get into this commentary. So just bear with me. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. Let me share my screen. If there are any problems with the audio or anything, please let me know. I would appreciate it. Okay, so there have been some developments in the Michael Brown case. You all remember this case from 2014 when the brother Michael Brown, an 18-year-old African-American man, was killed by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. He was shot in the streets, and this incident was one of the incidents that helped spark the whole Black Lives Matter movement, not necessarily the official organization, but just this whole push to end police brutality, this recent push in recent history to end police brutality. So many people may wonder what's going on with this case, why it's being mentioned now. As many people know, the first prosecutor in the case decided not to bring charges against Darren Wilson. And then you had a federal investigation, and they decided not to bring any charges against Darren Wilson. But the Justice Department did investigate the Ferguson Police Department, and they entered a consent decree with the Ferguson Police Department. And their report cited all kinds of abuses of the Ferguson Police Department. And I'm going to go into that in a few minutes. I'm going to click a link that talks about the Justice Department's findings with respect to this Michael Brown killing. And then I'm just going to provide some brief commentary. So I'm just going to show some images to just bring back your memory on this case for those people who've forgotten. This is the brother Michael Brown. He was a recent graduate on his way to college, and he ended up dead. He ended up being killed by this police officer. And here's the police officer, Darren Wilson. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know that I talked about this whole case thoroughly. I did multiple videos about this. So no charges were brought. And one of the things that made this case so outrageous is the fact that this brother was killed and they left his body in the street. As you can see in this photograph right here, they left his body in the street for hours, while crowds of people stood around looking at this brother just lying on the ground dead. This brother was treated worse than roadkill. And this is what sparked the uprising in Ferguson. This horrific killing of this brother. And they actually expect us to believe that this officer, that Michael Brown was the aggressor, then Michael Brown, after getting shot in his hand, decided to turn around and charge a police officer who was armed with a gun. To me, that doesn't make any kind of sense at all. I don't buy that story. It's just unfortunate that there were no cameras to capture what happened. And then, as you all know, they tried to demonize his brother by showing some altercation that he was involved in earlier. I think it was either earlier that day or around the same time or something to that effect. They used this image to depict him as violent, to dehumanize him so that people would not have any kind of sympathy for this brother. And you ended up having a prosecutor not even bringing charges against this guy. Then, again, you had the federal government decide not to, bring charges against the officer that killed his brother. Had the federal government decide not to bring charges against Darren Wilson. And Darren Wilson claimed that he was, from what I remember, he was saying that he had been attacked or something like that. There was some kind of struggle, and there wasn't a scratch on this guy. They had all these photos from the hospital, not a scratch on this guy. But anyway, let's go back to the story. So it said that the top prosecutor in St. Louis County will not bring charges against Darren Wilson, the former police officer who fatally shot Michael Brown in Ferguson back in 2014. It said that the prosecuting attorney, and this also, before I get to that, it says that the decision came nearly 6 years after a grand jury declined to prosecute Wilson. So this is 6 years later. And then also it says that the prosecuting attorney, Wesley Bell, and his office spent 5 months reinvestigating the case at the request of the Browns family, calling the shooting one of the most significant moments in St. Louis history. And the prosecutor went on to say this: could we prove beyond a reasonable doubt that when Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown, he committed murder or manslaughter under Missouri law? After an independent and in-depth review of the evidence, we cannot prove that he did. That's what the prosecutor had to say. He said, I know this is not the result the family was looking for, and their pain will continue forever. Now, this article talks about the Justice Department. It says, as I was talking about before, it says that Brown was killed on August 9th after Wilson encountered him and a friend on Canfield Drive in Ferguson. Earlier in the day, Brown had stolen cigarillos from a nearby convenience store, according to the Department of Justice 2015 report on his death. And I'm going to click that link and show you some information, or click another link from the Justice Department to show you more information on this. It said when Wilson tried to stop Brown and his friend, Brown reached through the driver's side window of Wilson's vehicle and began punching him. And you all saw the picture of this police officer who claims that he was punched. His face looks fine to me. I don't see any bruises on his face or anything, but they want us to believe that this young man reached in this police car and proceeded to punch a police officer. But anyway, it goes on to say, the department notes that some witnesses claim that Brown never put his hands in the car. But they said that those testimonies do not corroborate physical and forensic evidence. And then it says, after, it talks about how after Wilson shot Brown in the hand, Brown ran from the car before turning back to face him, the report said. And it goes on to say that Wilson said he feared for his safety because Brown was running towards him, then he then shot and killed Brown. And it says that the autopsy results cited in the report indicate that Brown was hit 6 to 8 times. It says a DOJ investigation cleared Wilson, and but there was a scathing indictment of the Ferguson Police Department as a whole, claiming that officers routinely violated the rights of Black residents. And this article goes on to cite some examples of how how they violated the rights of Black residents. It says that police supervisors and leadership do too little to ensure that officers act in accordance with law and policy and rarely respond meaningfully to civilian complaints of officer misconduct. It said the result is a pattern of stops without reasonable suspicion and arrests without probable cause in violation of the Fourth Amendment, infringements on freedom of expression, as well as retaliation for protected expression in violation of the First Amendment, and excessive force in violation of the Fourth Amendment. So I'm going to click this Justice Department report. He goes into a little bit more detail about Michael Brown. It cites, many of the civil rights violation of the Ferguson Police Department, as mentioned in that article. And I'll post a link to this article, and then it has this link to the Justice Department's website. And one thing that has to be noted, this was during the Obama administration, an administration that did try to do things to fight police brutality and racial profiling in police departments. And they still found that Michael Brown, that his killing would be difficult. The whole thing would be difficult to prove in court, to bring a certain type, civil rights violations against this officer. And what I'm going to do is just read some quick excerpts from this, the information that they mentioned about Michael Brown. It says the standard of proof is the same for all criminal cases. It says the defendant committed the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. However, unlike state laws, federal criminal civil rights statutes do not have the equivalent of manslaughter or a statute that makes negligence a crime. Federal statutes require that the government prove that Officer Wilson used unreasonable force when he shot Michael Brown, and that he did so willfully. That is, he shot Michael Brown knowing it was wrong and against the law to do so. After careful and deliberative review of all the evidence, the department has determined that the evidence does not establish that Darren Wilson violated the applicable federal criminal civil rights statute. And it goes on to say that the family of Michael Brown was notified earlier today of the department's findings. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. When this prosecutor was elected, I think from what I recall, he was going to, vow to do this investigation and all that kind of stuff. And here are the results of the investigation. There will be no justice for Michael Brown. It's just a shame that, that we didn't have video footage of what happened, because all of these doubts and concerns would be addressed if we have video footage. And this is just another case of a Black man being killed by the police and there being no justice in the case. We know that this is just something that routinely happens. Here you had a brother, his body was laying in the middle of the street for hours after being killed by this cop, and nothing happens. His life has zero value in the minds of these people, unfortunately. And, we've seen this before. We've seen this back with Rodney King, when those police literally beat their brother like a slave, and they walked during the first trial. They got off. You know, and we've seen it in many cases that you are very familiar with, where these police get off. And this is just a part of a pattern. And this whole incident is what has sparked, um, you know, this whole movement that we see right now still going on today. And it's just a shame, man. So I'm going to see what you all are saying before I sign off and do the next live stream. Yeah, so Doris said that he's not surprised at all by the verdict. And really, it was no verdict. There wasn't even a verdict. It didn't even go to a trial or anything. It's just a decision of the prosecutor after looking at the evidence. Shout out to Elaine Lloyd. She said, peace. You know, Beyonce has a new album. How you focus on anything else. I guess he's joking around. Yeah, I gotta watch that on Disney just to see what the hype's all about. Yeah, it's just a shame, man, what's going on. You know, this is it's not surprising. Like I didn't even realize, you know, that there was still an investigation going on in that case. Like you know, and it's just messed up. You know, this brother was shot and killed. You had that rebellion in Ferguson. And the rebellion made a difference in terms of, you know, getting the Justice Department to investigate the police department. And because of that investigation, you now have a legally binding consent decree that can bring about some reforms. And I would be really interested in learning about like what kind of assessment has there been of the police department lately and its progress towards reform. Yeah, so Elaine Lloyd said that it's sad that we need the cameras for anybody to care. And the sad thing is, like, even when we have cameras, these police walk. We saw what happened with Eric Garner. You know, they choked that brother out live on camera for the whole world to see. Still to this day, no charges have been filed against that officer. Let's see what else. Yeah, and then they always like exaggerate the fear of you know, Black people. You know, they make it seem like we're so intimidating and that they have, you know, a reasonable basis to do what they do. It's such a shame. Yeah, shout out to Def Rocker. I may do a video about Malik B. I may do a video about that. But yeah, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Again, I may be back up here with another video. There are a couple of things that I want to talk about. I'm probably going to be up here with a couple of other videos. I want to talk about the NBA protests where the brothers took a knee and wore Black Lives Matter shirts. I'm going to talk about that briefly. Have to touch on that tonight. And then I want to talk about the Breonna Taylor case. I want to go into detail about the Breonna Taylor case. So that may be a video that I do tomorrow. I want to do some more research on it so that I can really speak on this whole controversy, you know, involving no charges being brought and also involving this dispute between Tamika Mallory and this hip hop producer, this white guy. Yeah, so I really look forward to that. It's just a shame, like, no, I'll just say that commentary for the video. So hopefully y'all can hang in there, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. because YouTube is playing around with my views and playing around with people getting notifications of me posting new content. So I need y'all to hit that notification bell and hit that like button too, so that people will know about this, these videos that I'm doing. I truly appreciate your support. And for those of you that are watching this on the playback, I really want to hear your thoughts about this whole situation involving Michael Brown, and just police brutality in general. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to everyone. Eid Mubarak to all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. Again, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a good evening.